I never imagined finding love in the unlikeliest place. A poor miner girl said yes to my heart. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The air felt heavy, like a storm brewing. I stood in the dim light of the underground, where shadows danced and breathed, waiting for her. It was a rough place, this coal mine. The smell of sweat and earth clung to my skin, and the distant sound of tools clashing echoed in my ears. Yet amidst the grime and despair, there she was. Her name was Clara, a girl from the depths below, but light poured from her soul. I remembered the first time I saw her face. Her eyes shone like emeralds, alive with dreams in a world made of dust. She wore her hair in a wild braid, strands escaping like rays of sun from a cloudy sky. There was something magnetic about her, something that pulled me closer even in that unforgiving space. I had come to understand her struggles, the weight of her family's expectations, the endless hours in the dark. She didn't just dig for coal, she dug for hope. I admired how she handled the crude tools with such grace, her hands blistered and calloused, but always moving forward. I felt a strange attachment to her, a connection that went deeper than the coal beneath our feet. But life in a mining town is a cruel mistress. Whispers echoed around us, filled with doubts and disapproval. She's too poor for him, they said. He's got dreams, she's got dirt. Sometimes, I could feel their pitiful gazes piercing my back, judge and jury all in one. It hurt, to choose between what the world expected and what my heart screamed for. One evening, after a long day, I took a chance. With trembling hands, I reached for her, my pulse racing. "Clara, will you be mine?" I barely whispered it, fear clawing at my throat. Silence fell like a dense fog. My heart pounded, each beat echoing the question. She stared at me, uncertainty swimming in her eyes. I wanted to reach into her heart, show her the universe I saw in her. And then, she said yes. Her smile spread like wildfire, igniting a warmth in the cold cavern. I felt my heart explode. But that joy was short-lived. Days later, news arrived of a collapse in another mine, the screams and chaos unfolding like a horror story. Suddenly, everything changed. It became a race against time, against fear. Clara's family was caught, trapped like shadows in a collapsing world. I felt my heart shudder, a tightness creeping in my chest. What if I lost her before I ever truly had her? The thought paralyzed me, twisting hope into despair. That I rushed to the site, the air thick with sorrow. I could hear the murmurs of uncertainty, even the despair of those who waited outside. "They'll never make it," someone whispered, tears falling like rain. My knees buckled. I couldn't be another voice of hopelessness. I ran to the entrance, my body trembling with anxiety and determination. "She's in there," I screamed, my voice cracking, raw with desperation. I didn't care if others tried to hold me back. I had to find her, to reach into the dark and drag her back to the light. But what if I couldn't? What if this was where our story ended, before it even began? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As I stood at the mouth of the mine, panic coursed through my veins like wildfire, and the heavy clang of emergency bells faded into the background. Only one thought filled my mind. I had to find Clara. Amid frantic cries and murmurs, I pushed through the throng of miners who were doing their best to stay calm, their faces lined with concern and defeat. I could see their fear mirrored in their eyes, a reflection of my own dread. I couldn't let it encapsulate me. I couldn't sink into despair. I had to believe that I in the chaos. A hand gripped my shoulder. Raphael, an old friend from the same mining crew who had always looked out for me. His expression was grave, but there was a flicker of solidarity in his eyes. "Let's go," he urged, urgency guiding his every word as he tugged me towards the entrance. "We have to help. The rescuers are trying to get in." Each step I took felt heavy, a leaden weight anchoring my resolve. I prayed that she was safe, somewhere within the stone walls, that she could feel my presence like a lifeline pulling her back. As we descended into the mine's depths, the air grew stifling, thick with dust and disillusionment. I started to question every decision that had led me to this moment. Had I really let myself fall in love amongst the shadows? Deeper and deeper we went, the dim light flickering around us, illuminating faces captured in dark fear. Men and women were working tirelessly, digging, shouting commands, their breaths labored. What felt like an eternity passed, grounded by the terror that echoed in my heart. Clara could be anywhere down here. Hold on, Raphael shouted, gesturing to a gaping hole in the wall where rescuers were trying to cut through the stone. I felt my chest tighten. They say they can hear voices on the other side. Hope bubbled cautiously, filling the empty spaces left by fear. I took a step closer, my breath hitching. Clara, I yelled, my voice breaking. Can you hear me? Silence. I was met with only the steady drip of muck and despair falling from the walls. A few moments later, another miner broke through the chaos, his eyes wild and desperate. They found someone. A woman. My heart leaped, but the fear quickly clutched it again as the man spoke. We could already hear the anguished cries of loved ones, focused on a woman trapped elsewhere. They're trying to get to her, but there's too much rubble. A shriek of desperation erupted from someone behind us, and I turned, my stomach dropping. It was Clara's sister, Anna. She clutched a handful of dirt, her face drained of color, her eyes brimming with hopelessness. They're not going to make it. They're never going to make it. The despair felt infectious, creeping across the air and dulling the flicker of hope. I desperately clung to that. I reached for her arm gently, forcing her to look at me. We have to believe. Please, I urged, my voice steadying despite my insides trembling. Clara is strong. If anyone can fight, it's her. Anna's eyes softened, the flicker of hope fighting to penetrate the darkness surrounding her heart. We clung to it together, an unexpected unity against the tide of grief. Hours stretched like lifetimes, and just before the fog of exhaustion started to consume me, I heard Ida's sound through the crumbling walls, faint yet electric. Clara, I shouted again, my soul lighting up against the despair. Then came the reply, fainter than a whisper, but undeniably her voice. Help him here. It felt like a lifeline pulled from the depths of despair, and adrenaline surged through my body. I could feel the heartbeat of each second as urgency kicked every inch of my being into motion. We'll find you, I yelled back, but uncertainty clawed at me even as warmth seeped through the cracks of icy fear. And then, as if the world rejoiced in our newfound hope, a deafening roar echoed from above, the sound of heavy machinery, the vibrations shaking the earth. Announcements, strained voices, a wave of fear washing over the crowd waiting above. I turned to Raphael, his eyes reflecting my own terror. What is happening? Get back, he shouted, a tone of authority lacing his panic. The ground trembled beneath our feet, and a sudden crack split the air like thunder. Panic erupted like flames as a cloud of dust erupted from the depths of the mine, a terrible rumble following like a hunting beast. I gripped Anna's arm, horrified chaos swarming around us. No, Clara, I shouted, but I couldn't see the dust for the eyes welling with tears of fear and disbelief. As the dust cleared, I caught a glimpse of a silhouette emerging, too small in the chaos. Then sunlight broke in like a miracle, spilling through the ragged opening and illuminating the anxious faces waiting to behold the truth. My breath caught as the figure stumbled out, gasping for breath. It was Clara. It should have been her. But even as the anguished cries echoed through my heart, a chill ran down my spine when I caught sight of the color of her clothes. In her arms, she cradled a tiny bundle, swathed in a tattered blanket that seemed shockingly out of place amidst the tragedy. Clara, I screamed again, but this time, it was not only relief that felt sharply like a blade slicing through my chest. It was confusion, a small flicker of fear at what I could see but could not understand. And then, she reached out towards our gathered friends, eyes wide with desperation. Help! He needs help. As she cradled that fragile body, my heart halted, blood roaring in my ears, and my world shattered into shadows and light. In that moment, I realized that the journey was far from over. We were merely at the beginning of a new horizon filled with questions, hope, and the very real specter of love that would challenge us all. As the dust settled, a chaotic silence wrapped around us. Those who had rushed to Clara's side moved with conflicting impulses of relief and dread. The baby she held, the beautiful, yet fragile creature, seemed to vibrate with uncertainty in the tumultuous atmosphere of fear and confusion. I felt an invisible barrier forming around us as I reached her, yet I couldn't step across it, not yet. The look in Clara's eyes sent a pang of anxiety through my chest. They were wide, shimmering with an emotion that was as painful as it was profound. "Clara," I managed to utter, my voice trembling with concern. Who is this?" "His name is Mateo," she said breathlessly, glancing down at the swaddled baby. "He was trapped in the rubble. I couldn't leave him." There was a fervor in her voice, a defiant echo against the encroaching chaos. She had emerged from hell, carrying the innocence of new life amidst the discord. Words escaped me as I grasped the weight of her revelation. How could she have found him amid such darkness? Anguish and awe tangled within me, coiling tighter with each beat of my heart. But how I struggled to find my footing in the kaleidoscope of emotions as Raphael stepped forward, taking his rightful place by her side. "Where's his mother?" he asked gently, keeping his tone soft, aware that any more shock might recoil Clara further away from us, from the warmth we had all leaned on during this dark hour. Clara looked away, her gaze fluttering like a butterfly caught in the storm. The words cracked as they left her lips, tears welling anew. She couldn't make it out. She was a healer. She was Clara, Anna interjected, her own fear giving way to compassion. "We'll figure this out. You did the right thing." Her voice wavered but held an undercurrent of strength. Focusing on the precarious yet flickering light of hope, I caught sight of the others, miners and rescuers, watching us. Their expressions a blend of awe and uncertainty. The protective barrier around Clara began to dissolve, drawn away by the magnetic force of empathy that rumbled through the crowd. A woman stepped forward, reaching out to Clara, ready to lend a steady embrace for both her and the newborn. In that single action, I felt the shift. The world around us had evolved, molding itself not only into fear, but into a community, a village to hold us as we faced this unforeseen challenge together. Yet questions loomed larger than life, questions that rattled my soul and haunted the edges of hope. What would become of Mateo? Would he grow up to feel the burden of his origins, intertwined with the tragedy that had brought him into existence? And what about Clara? How would she navigate this interpersonal labyrinth that was suddenly her life? With each breath, I sensed the knot within me tighten, filling my heart with dread. I took a step closer, drawn to her vulnerability, while trying to remain anchored in resolve. "Clara," I whispered, but the name fought against my throat as I sought to embrace the tender affection blossoming amidst turmoil. "I don't know what to do," she replied, her voice small and fragile like the little life in her arms. "I can't lose him too. I just found him." Then she locked eyes with me, trembling as the swell of courage washed over her. "I need you, Julian," she confessed, and I felt warmth rush to my chest, melding with the fear of what that might truly mean. "You have me," I promised, realizing that I was ready to embrace whatever doubts this new leap of faith entailed. But the uncertainty remained, like a specter at the threshold of our burgeoning connection, threatening to unravel all we believed in. Just then, a distant siren wailed, the world outside pressing in, reminding us that the chaos was not yet done with us. The stark boundary between hope and despair began to blur, stirring within me the fear of losing what we had just begun to build in the wake of calamity. As whispers clustered around us, sharing their support and spreading warmth through the cold fear, I caught a glimpse of the mother's body carried from the mine, her life extinguished in the shadows. My heart fractured anew with the weight of it all. Clara was not just a radiant spirit caught in the throes of love or light. She was now a guardian standing at the precipice of loss, fighting for a chance that echoed within us all. And just as I began to steady my resolve to support her, a shriek more desperate than scars of the mine itself cut through the air. Another survivor, a man, wild-eyed with details painted on his face, collapsed against the stone wall, gasping for breath as he pointed frantically upward. "It's not just us. There are others. They're not all out yet." Hope and fear twisted together, a new storm brewing on the horizon. Clara clenched Mateo tighter, her gaze a storm cloud reflecting our collective anxiety. A pathway of decisions and emotions lay before us, thickening the air we breathed, and I knew this was merely the beginning. As I held Clara's gaze, trembling against the revelations closing in, I realized we were caught between the echoes of tragedy and the promises of love. The journey had only just begun, and whatever lay ahead, we would face together. The dim light of dusk cast elongated shadows around us, and the fading siren's wail was swallowed by the silence that followed the man's frantic revelation. My heart raced as I searched Clara's eyes for answers, but they only mirrored my own confusion and dread. Anxiety climbed through the crowd, spreading like wildfire, igniting whispers as they processed the man's words. "More lives," Clara murmured, her voice hushed, filled with an aching sincerity that cut through the tension. More vulnerable souls trapped maybe, scared. Her eyes glistened with tears, reflecting the frantic waves of uncertainty that crashed around us. I wanted to pull her back into the cocoon of safety we had shared just a moment earlier, but the weight of reality pinned us down like the very rubble that had unleashed this catastrophe. But I stepped closer, the urge to comfort her flaring fiercely within me. Our surroundings were fraying, yet all I could see was our connection intertwined still by the fragile promise of hope. "We have to help them," I insisted, my voice steadier than I felt. Clara nodded, determination mingling with fear. "But how? We don't even know where to start." Before I could respond, Raphael took command of the gathering. "We know the layout," he called out, raising his voice to draw attention. "If anyone can help locate survivors, it's those of us who were in the mines. We can organize a search." His words reignited a flicker of hope among the murmuring crowd. Anna joined him, rallying the others, and slowly, the adrenaline began to build, knitting our disparate emotions into a single purpose. As they strategized, Clara's hands trembled around Mateo, the cries of the baby cutting through the tension with piercing clarity. I could see her faltering again, swaying on the edge of despair the way the earth had rocked around us not so long ago. With instinctive need, I reached for her shoulder, firmly but gently, grounding her back to the present. "Clara," I said, "this little life depends on you. Let's find them. We can't leave anyone else behind." She looked at Mateo, whose tiny breaths seemed to whisper a connection deeper than the chaos surrounding us. In that moment, it was as if the universe conspired to pull us closer together, as we shared a near-silent understanding that this innocent child embodied both the fragility and resilience of life itself. With unwavering resolve, Clara inhaled deeply, and her eyes hardened. "You're right. We mustn't wait." As Clara stepped forward, a sudden wave of urgency washed over me. The realization that action was necessary to stave off the despair motivated my feet to follow her. We moved swiftly, joining a group of miners who had immediately begun searching for equipment to clear debris, to dig deeper, to listen for cries that might emerge from the darkness below. As we worked, the unity we shared sparked small moments of kindness and bravery. A young mother passed us a thick blanket, fresh from the trunk of her car. "Here," she said, looking toward Clara, "for when he needs it." There was a shared understanding in the eyes of those around, not just empathy, but a shared fervor to embrace life amidst loss. With every effort to inch away the rubble, each person treasured hope differently. A fragile, flickering light swelled within us, resonating louder as laughter mixed with tears, mingled breaths echoing the spirit of our community as it grew before me, a testament to humanity's unyielding will to survive. Yet, just as I began to feel a flicker of assurance, a distant thundering echoed from the mine. Exaggerated shadows danced against the crumbling walls as dust particles erupted around us in swirling plumes. My pulse quickened, dread worming its way into my chest once more. "The structure," I gasped, my voice thick with apprehension. "If there are survivors, the building might collapse again." "Stay back," Raphael shouted as he rallied everyone to step away from the shafts of the mine, his instincts kicking into full gear. It was a warning that held gravity, but within Clara's grasp, Mateo wailed, oblivious to the chaos, his small body vibrating. With his own fears, "Clara," I yelled over the new surge of panic, pulling her close. "We need to get him away from here. I'm not leaving them," she shouted, tears streaming as the reality caught up to her unyielding spirit. She tugged against my grip, desperation flaring in her eyes. "They need help." Just then, a small collective of villagers approached from the edge of our small makeshift camp. their faces lined with sorrow and determination. Among them was a woman I recognized, Mirabelle, the town's midwife, along with her daughter holding a handful of bottled water. "Clara," she called, "whatever it takes, we're here to support you." In that moment, the rich tapestry of community enveloped us again, binding Clara amidst her resolve. But even as others surged toward the mine, the winds changed. The earth felt unstable beneath our feet, and warnings plunged into the pit of my stomach. The world shifted violently as a crack tore through the mine's outer walls, and with a thunderous roar, a mass of rubble cascaded into view, vivid and alarming against the fading light. Gasps echoed, whispers of horror caught in throats as I turned from Clara to see the collapse unfolding. "Julian!" Clara cried out, her eyes wide with fear as I felt my heart collide with the weight of her desperation. In that instant, just as fear gripped me, I heard something much louder, a faint cry piercing through the dust and chaos. Another life. But as I turned back, the reality dawned. Would I dash forward into the unknown with Clara, chasing that echo of hope, or would the treacherous shadows of despair consume us first? Time seemed to stand still, the world caught in a fever dream of choices, all eyes converging onto one singular fate, swirling around us like a tempest. It was our moment of reckoning, and as Clara's grip tightened around Mateo, the fragility of our entire existence hung in the balance. The echo of the faint cry reverberated through me, awakening something primal beneath layers of turmoil. I glanced back at Clara, her eyes brimming with both hope and terror, the balance of those emotions teetering dangerously on the brink. My heart pounded like a drum, its rhythm merging with the chaos that surrounded us. Against that backdrop of uncertainty, the call of a potentially trapped soul filled the air, each heartbeat weaving a tapestry of urgency. "Julian, we have to." I barely heard Clara's plea, my instincts igniting. I had to push through, had to find clarity amid the cacophony. Ricardo, a burly miner whom I had known since childhood, surged beside me. "Do you hear it?" he panted, eyes wild with determination. "The cry," he continued, gripping my shoulder. "There's someone down there." Desperation transformed our surroundings as the community floundered in confusion. I felt Clara's grip release, her gaze focused on the gaping maw of the mine. It was dark, unfathomably deep, a mouth swallowing its secrets. I didn't want to look back at her. I could only focus on the path ahead, the promise of saving a life compelling me toward the abyss. "Let's go," I shouted to Ricardo, voice resonating with newfound purpose. As we approached the mine, the air thickened with dust, and the danger felt like a tangible entity. We were crossing an invisible line between hope and despair, a chasm littered with unspoken fears. "Julian, please." Clara's voice broke through the haze, more a plea than an order. She began inching toward us, desperation imbued with courage as she fought against the crowd that barely held her back. "Don't be reckless." Vigilant eyes were everywhere, watching, waiting. Our community was teetering on the edge of chaos, each heartbeat threading through the fine line of hesitation. I felt hope flare inside me as memories cascaded like wildfire, moments shared with Clara, the laughs and tender brushes of our hands sending shivers coursing through my veins. Every memory sparked a challenge. I couldn't let her doubts dictate our reality. "Clara," I shouted, calming my own rising fear as I turned toward her, "I can't leave this soul behind. If we can hear them, they're still fighting for their life. And we can help them, together." Tears gleamed on her cheeks as she took a trembling breath. "I can't lose you." Like the words caught sharp in her throat, and the heaviness of the unspoken hung between us, a reminder of all we feared. "I won't be lost," I assured her, forcing confidence into my every word. "But you need to trust me. Trust us. We'll bring them back. We can't stop now." The call of the survivor echoed once more, piercing the shared silence, binding us together in our shared struggle. Clara's eyes searched mine, and in that fleeting moment, the world narrowed down to just the two of us. I wanted to hold her, to assure her that no darkness could ever dim the light we shared. With a fierce resolve, Clara nodded, the fire swirling within her. "Then let's do this," she whispered, and it felt like an invocation. An unbreakable bond formed through both our fear and our unwavering belief in the possibility of hope, that we moved deeper into the mine, only to be greeted by the stony embrace of darkness. We lit a few emergency lanterns, the flickering flames barely keeping the shadows at bay. With each cautious step, I led the way, my heart racing as adrenaline coursed through my veins, mingling with trepidation. Then a strangled sob echoed, deeper within. The sound was haunting, and it galvanized us forward like a magnetic pull. This way, I urged, pushing through the rocks and shifting debris. The cries grew clearer, both desperate and muffled, deepening the urgency in our movements. And then chaos. A sudden rumble surged beneath us like the whispers of the earth trying to warn us. And thunderous cracks snapped above us, and dust billowed around us, threatening to engulf everything. My heart seized in panic. "We have to hurry. Julian, watch out," Clara shouted as she lurched forward to steady me. But the ground trembled in response, fragments of stone cascading around us. The path ahead grew narrower, the darkness closing in like a vice that we pressed on, fueled by adrenaline and an unyielding determination to reach the source of those desperate cries. Finally, the mind opened into a pocket dimly lit but heavy with an oppressive energy. There, a figure lay outlined against the rubbly, a woman, crumpled but alive. "Call for help," I shouted, my voice echoing off the walls. But our moment of triumph was short-lived. As Clara rushed forward, I caught sight of crawling dust clouds swirling ominously toward us, creeping closer like a predator preparing to pounce. Time stretched every moment, crafted a question more daunting than the last. "Get her," I yelled, but an insidious growl tore through the mine as the shift became a roar. The threat of collapse loomed around us again. "Now hold on." Clara's voice cracked, anxiety constricting her every word. Together we lifted the injured woman, propelling her towards the exit with the raw power of adrenaline. Yet as we stumbled backward, I felt the tremors beneath our feet grow volatile, and horror gripped my throat like ice. A deafening rush of air, a fissure splitting the earth overhead. The mine began to shed its heavy structure as ancient stones rained down like bullets. I turned toward Clara, panic pooling as the realization drifted into his wooden end well. "Clara, we have to move." But just as her eyes locked onto mine, the pinnacle of the cave caved in, solid rock surging down. I lunged forward, grabbing her wrist, but in both of our desperate struggles, the world shattered around us. Clara screamed, and as our hands slipped apart, my heart tearing from my chest, a blinding light enveloped us through the thick torment of dust. All I could think was how I refused to let the darkness win, how love thrived even amid chaos. Then, silence. Just before the world fell away, a memory flared to life, a moment I never imagined. The feeling of her love holding me tightly through the darkest night. And in that jarring second, I felt a lightness and unexpected embrace from the depths of despair. The stillness enveloped me, thick as the darkness just moments before the earth had collapsed in chaos. I blinked, trying to comprehend the void around me, the weight of the shadows pressing lightly on my chest. I was acutely aware of the absence of Clara's warmth, the absence of her voice that had spurred me on, a melody now drowned in silence. "Clara," I called out, the name echoing within the confines of the mine like a haunting refrain. A cold knot formed in my stomach as dread settled in. I tried to shift my body, but the weight of debris pinned me down, a suffocating reminder of how close we had been to pulling victory from despair. Panic seized me. Every heartbeat became a chant of her name, each pulse reverberating through the stillness. I could hear nothing but the echo of my own trepidation, my voice, my bray, the stark contrast to the earth's churning silence. I forced myself to breathe, the air in my lungs a reminder of life's flickering flame even in the face of overwhelming darkness. My body strained against the wreckage that ensnared me, and finally, with sheer force of will, I pressed my shoulder against a heavy beam, and it shifted just enough for me to crawl deeper into the narrow opening that might lead to salvation. The air grew heavier with dust, but it didn't deter me. I would find Clara or die trying. As I maneuvered through the jagged rocks, I heard it in a muffled whimper. Hope surged, igniting a fire deep within me. "Clara," I shouted again, my voice mingling with the haunting echo of the mine, becoming one with the despair surrounding me. Tears blurred my vision with each frantic crawl, desperate to escape the confines of both stone and fear. The dim light from my lantern flickered in response, a fragile lifeline illuminating the path ahead. I pressed forward until I found her, curled against the stone like a wisp of smoke lost in the shadows. "Clara," I gasped, relief flooding through me, breaking like dawn over the darkest night. I rushed to her, instincts prickling, stumbling over obstacles, but propelled by love and hope. Julian, her voice was barely a whisper, and yet it sliced through the confusion of emotions swirling inside me. Her eyes, usually so bright, were clouded with pain, but they sparkled with an indomitable spirit that felt like a warm embrace against the cold reality we faced. "Are you hurt?" I asked, kneeling beside her, the wreckage still pressing down around us. "Just trapped," she replied, her breath shaky, but she managed to offer me a weak smile that melted the chill in the cavern. "I thought I lost you." "Not a chance," I assured her, determination lending strength to my words. I reached for her, carefully pulling her into my embrace, where the warmth of our connection fought against the shadows closing in around us. "We're getting out of here." Clara winced as I helped her up, but her resolve shone through the pain. "We have to move, Julian. It's not safe here." The cries of the trapped miner came back to me, and I steadied her, moving towards the sound again, our hearts beating in synchrony, navigating the wreckage. The passage closed around us, encased by dark stone, yet together we generated a flicker of light. Just as we approached the source of the cries, our hearts dropped as the hollow darkness became more profound. We weren't alone. Shifting rocks gave way, revealing another pocket in the mine, a space swathed in eerie shadows. A handful of fellow miners stood huddled together, their expressions twisted with fear. Among them was Ricardo, eyes wide as they lit upon us. "Julian, Clara," he exclaimed, relief mingling with panic. "More rocks collapse. There's no way out." "What do you mean?" My voice escalated, disbelief punctuating my panic. "There must be another exit." Ricardo shook his head, the gruff miner suddenly looking small beneath the weight of our shared reality. "The mine's shifting dangerously. Any movement could lead to another collapse. We're trapped." The gravity of his words sank deep, each syllable tightening the vice around my heart. Clara's hand slipped into mine, her touch grounding me. Amid chaos, "We can't give up," I murmured, purpose crystallizing in the face of despair. "There must be a way out." "You don't understand," Ricardo said, every word heavy with hopelessness. The main shaft collapsed. "There's only silence ahead." But as he spoke, a glimmer snaked through my thoughts, a memory of Clara's fierce spirit, her resilience washing over me like a tide. "We'll find a way," I declared, my voice rising in defiance against fate. Together, the others exchanged wary glances, the weight of hopelessness bearing heavily upon their shoulders. Clara squeezed my hand, a silent promise binding us into an unyielding pact. With every ounce of fervor coiling within me, I turned to the group. "We can't lose hope. We have to believe. What we have is stronger than the darkness that's trying to swallow us whole." Then, as if on cue, the very earth beneath us trembled again, shaking the fragile echoes of our hope. The ground shifted ominously, a thunderous growl that sent stones spilling down like tears from the eyes of the mountain. And then, from the depths of the chaos and despair, a shocking revelation broke through, an echo of a voice from a place unknown, cutting through the cacophony like a shard of glass. It beckoned, not for the miner they had sought but for me, calling my name. "Julian," it resonated, yet it bore an unfamiliar weight. "Who's there?" I called, the name hovering in the stillness between inspiration and fear, only hope blazing within me. "Come find me." The voice slid through the dark, laced with a promise I couldn't yet decipher, but it felt like destiny unfolding amidst our desperate struggles. I met Clara's wide eyes, the spark of hope ignited again, a glimmer amidst the encroaching shadows. "We can do this," I urged, the resolve igniting alongside an unexpected thread of mystery. But as the ground trembled once more, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was merely the beginning. The depths of the mine echoed with secrets, and the voice that called for me signaled something greater than mere survival. A choice awaited, stirring with darkness just out of reach, and I braced myself for whatever was to come next. The mine echoed with the weight of fear and uncertainty, but amidst that turmoil, the mysterious voice continued to linger, just beyond the reach of my understanding. Clara looked at me, her brows knitted together in both curiosity and concern. "Julian, who was that?" she whispered, as if the very act of speaking could invoke the shadows to seep back in that I don't know. I admitted, my heart racing. "But we can't ignore it." It felt urgent. With a swift exchange of nods among the miners, we knew we had to press on, not just for our survival, but to unravel the enigma that had entered our desperate reality. The tension thickened as we ventured deeper into the mine's labyrinth, the path dampening beneath our feet with the incessant sound of drips and echoing dust that danced in the dim light. The light from my lantern flickered worryingly, causing shadows to stretch and sway dangerously around us. Clara kept her hand firmly grasped in mine, grounding me with her unwavering spirit. "We'll find a way out. We have to believe that voice will guide us," she insisted, her fear transformed into determination, asserting itself with fervor that bolstered my hope. But as we moved further away from the trembling remnants of our previous resting place, the reality of our plight settled heavily upon us. The air felt thicker, as if laden with memories of those who had come before us, voices echoing in the silence, the murmurs of past struggles vibrating within the very walls of the mine. Ricardo, determined yet visibly shaken, turned his attention to me. "Julian, if that voice really is leading us somewhere, we need to be careful. It could be a trick of the mind after all this chaos." His words hit like a stone, but I couldn't let doubt muddle our only flicker of hope. "We have to try. It's our only chance. We can't settle for despair. Not now." With resolve imprinted on my heart, I squeezed Clara's hand tighter, and we pressed on, the others trailing behind us. Despite Ricardo's warning, the voice danced through my mind, soft yet commanding, sweet like an unspoken promise. "Julian, come find me." My name repeated in a mantra as if it was carrying something beyond this moment, yet I couldn't understand its depth. The deeper we went, the more I felt Clara's hesitation creeping in. "Julian, what if we don't find anything? What if we only find more darkness?" she asked, her voice no more than a tremor, the light from my lantern casting fear into her expressions. "We have to trust," I replied, forcing confidence into my tone. "Trust in each other. Trust in the light we bring, even if it flickers." Just then, the earth beneath our feet seemed to sing a resonance that vibrated through my soles and into my very bones. That same haunting voice broke through again, clearer this time. "It's not just survival that awaits, Julian. It's freedom." "What does that mean?" Clara questioned, her voice quaking with every word. Yet beneath that quiver lay a thread of curiosity. Her heart was desperate for answers, just as mine was. "I don't know," I admitted, glancing back at the quiet determination in the faces of the miners surrounding us. "But whatever lies ahead, we will face it together." They rallied around us, an unspoken agreement hanging thick in the air. But just as hope wove a tapestry of camaraderie, chaos erupted. Another tremor struck, harsher and far more violent than the last. The walls shuddered, stones crashing down once more, sending a cascade of dust and debris tumbling between us. I instinctively pulled Clara tighter against me, shielding her from falling stones as I felt the ground shift treacherously beneath our feet. We stumbled backward, fear spreading through our ranks like wildfire, panic etched into every miner's expression. "Get to safety," I shouted over the cacophony, urging the others towards a space behind a sturdy boulder, when out of the corner of my eye, a shaft of light pierced the darkness ahead, illuminating a path that seemed almost sacred. "Julian!" Clara exclaimed, her voice laced with hope, pointing toward the light, an unyielding thread of destiny that beckoned us forth. The trembling subsided, leaving us in the enveloping silence where that ethereal glow radiated warmth. "That's it. We can reach it." My heart surged as I took Clara's hand again. "Come on." We rushed forward, the promise of salvation glimmering tantalizingly ahead, eclipsing our fear with its iridescent light. But just as we crossed the threshold of the soft glow, a voice cracked through the stillness again. "Julian, you must decide. Choose wisely, your heart shall guide you. But the darkness will follow." I halted, uncertainty crashing down as the words hung heavy in the air. In that moment, Clara's grip slipped slightly, fear clouding her eyes as we stood at the brink of light and shadow. "What are you talking about? What choice?" she demanded, glancing between the ominous glow and the darkness that surrounded us. The choice loomed large, ominous, yet offering hope. The others pressed in, caught between curiosity and trepidation, as the weight of fate settled squarely in my hands. The unknown unfurled before us, and with it came the realization that the depths of the mine held more than just our entrapment. Nestled in the heart of chaos lay choices that promised more than simple escape. No longer did my heart beat solely for survival. It now pulsed with the potential of love, mystery, and perhaps salvation or loss I couldn't yet fathom. As I stood there, the air thick with decision, I couldn't help but wonder if love could truly exist in the unlikeliest of places, or if the darkness that had followed us would snuff out our flickering light before we could grasp it. The air hung heavy with an anticipation I could hardly bear. Clara's eyes flickered between the radiance of the light that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat and the oppressive shadows that surrounded us. The miners behind us shifted uneasily, instinctively grasping at one another for reassurance. In that instant, I realized that our fight was more than against the darkness of the mine. It was a fight against the despair that threatened to engulf our very spirits. Julian, Clara's voice quivered, her fingers grazing against mine like a whisper of a promise. What if it's a trick? What if it leads to something worse? Her fear was a mirror of my own deep within me. Uncertainty clawed at the edges of my soul. But what if it's not? What if this is our opportunity to break free? I countered, desperation threading through my words. What if it's a chance for all of us? The path of light seemed to shimmer, as if sharing in our hesitation, a beacon that beckoned us with the allure of freedom. Ricardo's voice broke into the thick silence. Regardless, we need to decide. Staying here won't save us. His practicality grounded me, yet I couldn't shake the weight of my heart's pull toward Clara. Together, I finally breathed, casting a glance around at the collection of weary yet hopeful faces. Whatever happens, we face it together. I tightened my grip around Clara's hand, anchoring her to me, feeling the warmth of her resolve intertwine with mine. Slowly, we edged forward, the glow drawing closer. Each step resonated like a drum in a silent hall, a heartbeat that matched the rhythm of our intertwined hopes. The light shimmered, illuminating the scars of our past bruises from despair, victory from endurance, but also the promise of love crackling like electricity in the air. Just as we neared the threshold, the voice returned, clearer this time, resonating deep within the chambers of my heart. Julian, now you must decide. Only one may enter freely. The others will follow through the shadows. What? Clara gasped, her eyes darting to me, worry knitting her brow while a cascade of fear flooded my senses. Julian, please, we can't separate now. The anguish in her voice mirrored the turmoil raging within me. Every choice, every path taunted me. It was as if the mine itself were a living entity, manipulating our fears and desires for its own dark reasons. I began, my voice faltering. I can't choose between you and freedom. Behind me, the miners murmured, their voices laced with hope and dread. We can't give up what we have to save one murmured, while another echoed, but risking it all could lead us to decision. Clara's fingers squeezed mine, silencing the chaos. It's not just about that, Julian. It's about us, about what we mean to each other. Her words were like a soft blanket amid a freezing storm, wrapped in compassion and fear. You have to choose. Trust your heart. As I stood on that precipice of fate, every heartbeat thundered in my ears. The love I felt for Clara swirled together with a longing for liberation. This mine had taken so much from user lives, our hopes, but it would not take our bond. The light pulsed, inviting me to make my choice, intensifying the dilemma. It promised rescue but threatened division. I had to act on my instincts despite the apparent perils that stretched out before us like a chasm. In a fleeting moment of clarity, I closed my eyes and cast my thoughts into the depths of my heart. They'll go through. They'll find a way back, I whispered into the silence. Yet I could feel Clara's resolve wavering as the light danced just beyond reach. Julian, don't, she shouted, the panic in her voice cutting deeper than any blade. You can't leave us. Not me. You can't choose the light over. As Clara's protest echoed through the cavern, the ground shuddered, in a furious reminder of the tempest beneath us. Dust swirled, and shadows writhed as if warning us that our moment was slipping away. That half-formed thoughts raced through my mind, colliding with every emotion I had ever had. And just as I made to step closer to the light, the voice returned, quieter now, but filled with urgency. The decision is irreversible. Choose now, Julian, or forfeit everything. And then the earth roared beneath us, a deafening reminder of our precarious situation. I turned back, momentarily lost in Clara's gaze. The pain of the unknown settled in my chest, clashing with my desire to choose hope for all of us. The shadows deepened, swirling as despair clawed at my heart. Just at that moment, one of the miners, Luisa, a quiet man whose laughter had always seemed out of place in this mind, stepped forward, pushing past the rest. Let me go, Julian. If we're meant to find our way, we must risk it. I volunteer. Luis, no? Clara cried. But he continued, voice unwavering. We all have been carrying burdens far heavier than what the world demands. This might be what we need to find out who we really are. His courage was both a bomb and a dagger, igniting something within me. Yet I couldn't allow it. No, Luis. Well, all choose together. But as the shadows stretched further, pulling Luis into their folds, I felt the spark of desperation igniting into raw urgency. I had seconds to make a choice for him, for Clara, for all of us. The darkness pressed ever closer, coaxing my fear like sweet poison. I began, and then a piercing scream cut through the air, a true revelation I wasn't prepared for. Clara's voice rose over all as she pulled away from my grasp, shocked by the sudden chaos that enveloped us. What are you doing? I shouted as Luis disappeared into the ascent of darkness. Clara's voice broke into a shriek of grief, a horror that echoed in my chest, pulling me closer to the edge of despair, yet it mixed with something equally potent, determination. Julian, she shouted again, make your choice, before it's too late. But before I could respond, I felt the ground beneath my feet tremble violently, and everything crumbled into the shadows around us. Desperation clawed at my throat, choking the words I wished to shout, words of reassurance, words of love, or perhaps even words of sacrifice. And in that blinding moment of swirling darkness mixed with light, I was left teetering on the edge, lost in the cacophony of anguish and fading hope, my heart racing as the decision slipped through my fingers, just like Clara's hand had moments before, a choice made under duress. A future shattered within mere seconds. The darkness wrapped around me like a shroud, suffocating and thickened by the echoes of loss that bounced off the cavern walls. I felt disembodied, as though I were floating suspended between the reality of Clara's cry and the uncertainty of the path forward. Luis had chosen to step into the unknown, and the thought of his courage only deepened my turmoil. Every ounce of me wanted to follow him, to bring him back. Instead, I stood paralyzed, engulfed by the enormity of the moment. Julian. Clara's voice sliced through the shadows, raw with urgency. We have to go. We have to make the choice for all of us. We can't let fear bind us. But how could I choose? What had been a hopeful journey teetered over the abyss of heartbreak, the shadows whispering temptations of despair. I don't know what to do, Clara, I shouted, my voice trembling. Luis is gone. I can't make this decision without him. Her eyes met mine with a fierceness that took my breath away. Beneath her fear, I could see the flickering flame of hope, ignited in the face of our dire straits. This isn't just about us anymore, she said fiercely, her voice steady despite the turmoil. It's about everyone who has been trapped in darkness, everyone who's lost their way. We must take a leap together, or lose everything to the shadows. The reality of her words echoed in my chest like a drumbeat, pressing me to take a stand. Together, I murmured, searching for the core of my resolve. Though shaken, I grasped for a semblance of courage. The miners looked to us, faces drawn yet shining with a flicker of hope beneath their fear. Clara's spirit ignited something deep in me, our lives intertwined, and contingency born by strength of unity. All right. I met her gaze, channeling the tremors of our shared pain into determination. Then let us not choose just one of us, but all of us. Let's forge our own path into the light. A collective breath rose from the miners, a soft wave of courage washing over us. Clara and I stepped forward, closer to the light, hands clasped firmly. We would not let fear dictate our path. Together, we would transcend the shadows. But as we reached the threshold, a shadow stirred an echo from Louis' departure. "Julian," Clara shouted as I felt an unseen force pulling me back, the light flickering and dimming with a growl of anger from the depths of the mine. The cacophony of whispers grew louder, a blend of warnings and temptations resounding through the air around us. "Only one may enter." The voice boomed again, deeper, more insistent. "Fear not the sacrifice. Choose now, or remain shackled by darkness." The miners fidgeted, a growing sense of panic bubbling in the pit of my stomach. "We all go together," I roared defiantly, my heart pounding so fiercely it drowned out the fearful murmurs around us. But the shadows laughed, mocking the fervor of my resolve. "Time is short, Julian," the entity crooned, laden with darkness. "Choose another, or face the void of hopelessness that it was." Then a glimmer of light flickered across my cheek, like a fleeting memory of love lost and found. I glanced at the faces of each miner, their fear mingling with unwavering determination. Clara's fierce gaze lingered on me, her unwavering belief pouring into my veins. Suddenly, an idea sparked within me, bright and bold. "I won't choose just one of us, but all. We are stronger in togetherness. We'll delve into the heart of this darkness and fight for each other." Now the voice shifted, startled by my declaration. "Such power is rare." "Very well, brave hearts, if you all wish to tread this path, know this: one sacrifice remains. One must stay back, lest you all be consumed." The air thickened with despair. I can't leave anyone behind," I pleaded, desperation clawing at my throat. "Well, find a wise one." Louise's absence weighed heavily on my heart, and as if sensing the weight of sacrifice, Clara stepped toward me with a fierce resolve. "Julian," she whispered, "sometimes love means letting go so others can find their freedom. If we are to save everyone, one of us must stand guard against the encroaching darkness." "Clara, no. I can't let you do this." I reached for her, afraid that speaking her intention out loud would solidify it. But Clara's eyes met mine with defiance, and within them, I felt our connection anchor me deeper in the present. "That I love you, Julian. I need you to trust me. We have to be the light for them," she implored, her voice unwavering in its sorrowful strength. "Let me hold the shadows, just for a moment. They'll find another way back." The world around us twisted with a shivering chaos as her resolve settled in my heart. The miners were swaying, fear now a tangible presence gathering in the corners of the cavern. Clara and I stood at the precipice of choice, her decision looming over us as though it were a mallet about to strike the final chord. "Together," I echoed softly, yet there was still an inevitability to Clara's decision that bound my chest with dread. The shadows ebbed and flowed, waiting for her assent. And just as Clara opened her mouth to speak, a deafening crack fractured the air, a spasm of stone and earth thundering from below. In that instant, as if responding to the roar, a surge of light burst forth from the depths of the Manea, manifestation of anguish and hope intertwined, spiraling toward us. The ground quaked violently beneath our feet, and Clara's fingers slipped through mine as the light expanded, swallowing her in warmth. Just as I realized it was now my choice to make, "No!" I screamed, reaching for her silhouette marked by the brightness. The light enveloped the cavern, and as it did, I saw Clara merge into it, her expression a fading smile, leaving me clutching at nothing but the air where she had been. "Choose now, Julian." The voice roared once more, the shadows writhing, eager for my decision. In that moment of horror mixed with devastation, a new determination surged within me. I felt the echoes of every life entwined with my own, each story a testament to resilience, to loss, and to love. Together, I roared defiantly, we rise beneath the stars of hope. As I stepped forth into the blazing light, a sudden influx of celestial energy enveloped me, and then in an instant, the mine thundered in protest, and darkness screamed as memories fractured around us. The last thing I saw was the hope in Clara's eyes as everything faded, and in that plunge into the unknown, I realized I would have to face something far more profound than fear alone. The shadows wouldn't let us go without a fight. Days turned into a blurred haze. The mine had collapsed around us, swallowing not just earth and stone but hopes and dreams. But somehow, I had found my way back. Alone, stranded in the silence of that suffocating darkness, I had fought the panic clawing at my throat, And just when fate had nearly extinguished the flame of hope, a flicker ignited. I still felt the heat of Clara's spirit wrap around me like a warm ember seed had offered a guiding light. Somehow, I had emerged not from the shadows, but into a world altered irrevocably, swelling with a quiet resilience now underscoring my every breath. The sun blazed over the horizon, remnants of dust coating the ground where rescue teams had frantically come and gone. I could hardly believe it was over, yet the reality tugged at me with stark clarity. I staggered forward, the ache of loss gripping my heart like a vice, threatening to squeeze the breath out of me. As I rounded the debris-strewn clearing, my eyes caught the faces of my community, faces I had long known, now mixed with loss and lingering hope. They surrounded a makeshift area where daylight pierced through the remnants of our frantic escapee, small gathering marked by the awe of survival, yet gripped by an unmistakable void. The weight pressed heavier against my chest, and I felt as if every heartbeat echoed my name, Julian. Julian. I heard a voice call, a familiar tone laced with worry. I turned to find Raphael striding towards me, eyes wide with an urgency I had never seen before. Relief surged through me as we exchanged an intricate glance, but just as quick, it morphed into something deeper. Luis is gone, he murmured, hesitating over the words, acknowledging the truth that lay heavy between us like a stone. My throat tightened as the faces around me morphed into shadows, collage pieces of those we had lost. And Clara? I croaked, my heart ready to shatter like fragile glass. Raphael lowered his head, unable to meet my gaze. She didn't escape. We couldn't reach her. The agony that infused those words hung like lead in the air, a solemn reminder of the past riven with shadows. My heart sank further into the abyss of despair, wings clipped, and breath hitching like a choking gasp encapsulating the moment. Something shifted within, a powerful wave of love coursed through my veins. I refused to let the bitterness of the shadows linger. Lost amidst the debris, Clara's spirit radiated even in her absence. She was a beacon that urged me onward. I thought of her fierce spirit and unyielding strength, of how she had stepped bravely into the unknown, selfless in ways I could only hope to honor. Sinking to my knees, the collective grief spilled forth, a raw sigh escaping my lips mingling with the whispers of those around me. No more, I whispered, knowing that the time to honor her memory was now. I had to make good on her sacrifice, to resurrect hope despite the crumbling ashes surrounding us. That I stood, shaking yet resolute. Julian is here, I declared, voice hardening. We have survived, and we owe it to everyone we've lost. The miners turned, a ripple of shock coursing through them, broken by the stark reality of the pain that stitched us together. Together, I echoed the mantra that had propelled me. We rise together. Our love for them cannot crumble under the weight of despair. It will rise, stronger, forged from our sorrow. Whispers of affirmation swirled, and slowly, the communal spirit brightened. The warmth of remembrance ignited hope among the shadows that had threatened to consume us all. I could see it in their eyes now. We had each endured a unique torment, but Clara's flame beckoned for us not just to survive, but to thrive, to carry forward the legacy of love that flourished even in the strangest of places. In that moment, I understood. Our lives, forever entwined, were a tribute to those we had lost, and each heartbeat could forge new beginnings from the ashes of despair. As we came together, each miner extending hands toward me, a brilliant notion glittered momentously, a plan forged of our scars and laughter. Let's honor them, our loved ones, I continued, supported now by the faces of familiar strangers turned allies. Let us build, not just to replace what was lost, but to create a future filled with light. We will build a place here, one where dreams rise above the dust. With tears glistening softly in our eyes, hands connected, we stood resolutely, shared heartbeat caught in the tender promise of hope. We would build a community worthy of their sacrifice, a sanctuary of resilience ignited by love, a home that extended beyond the confines of despair. As I looked up, the sun draped us in gold, and in that moment, a profound understanding washed over me. Just as Clara once held hope in her heart among the shadows, we now bore our wounds together, and through those wounds, we'd rise louder, resonating beyond the echoes of what we had lost. Standing beneath the vastness of the sky, I felt a profound Connection not just to the community surrounding me or to the land we would shape, but to Clara. She would forever remain a part of that unyielding spirit. You will always be here. I breathed into the wind, allowing her voice to flutter through the very fabric of my being. In that promise, I silently vowed that I would work tirelessly to carry her legacy forward, transforming our pain into something beautiful. Together, we would build a new sanctuary radiating with light, love, and resilience, a testament to survival, forged from the deepest depths of despair, transcending our boundaries, crafted with the unbreakable bond of love. And as each hammer struck the nails, amidst the laughter echoing through the air, I would feel Clara smiling fiercely down upon us. And that light, that burning warmth, would guide us eternally.
To plot our course against Jason's promise of chaos. We huddled together, exchanging ideas, thoughts, and dreams that once felt distant, each word weaving us tighter into a tapestry of resilience. Carmen emerged as our beacon, directing our fears into a battle plan that felt more like a rallying cry than a strategic meeting. We might not know what tomorrow holds, she said, her voice steady and reassuring, but we can prepare ourselves to face whatever shadows might creep our way. Fear is no longer an option. The crowd erupted in spirited agreement, and I felt the energy around us pulse with unwavering determination. With every plan we devised, I observed the metamorphosis of our vulnerability into strength. The dance that had once only belonged to me now belonged to all of us. Hours slipped by in a blur of solidarity and newfound purpose, the morning light fading into afternoon shadows but illuminating our hearts with fire. We were determined, and I thought back to the laughter, the mockery I had faced, and how those moments forged me. They no longer had power over me, they had transformed into fuel for my upcoming performance, not just for the competition that Carmen had mentioned, but for the fight against the darkness that loomed. As dusk settled, our hearts raced, ready for action. Just then, the crowd began to murmur, my pulse quickened. Among the camaraderie, Jason's presence felt near, a shadow lurking just outside our sanctuary. The door swung open, and there he stood, silhouetted by streetlights, the evening wrapped around his shoulders like a cloak of foreboding. I see you've gathered your little army, he smirked, mockery dripping from his tone. But do you really think you can defeat me? In that moment, I took a step forward, the collective breath of the crowd suspended behind me. We're not here to defeat you, Jason. We're here to reclaim our lives. A ripple moved through the throng, eyes blazing with courage and defiance. We aren't your pawns anymore, I continued, every ounce of hesitation dissipating under the weight of my own conviction. We're the authors of our own stories. Carmen shouted, her voice rallying the spirits around us, igniting a fire that melted away Jason's derision. Jason faltered momentarily, but then his laughter returned, cruel and biting. You think your resolve can win against me? I know all your weaknesses. Yet, as he spoke, we stood united. In that sea of faces, I saw my mother nodding, her eyes reflecting the hope I had long sought to ignite in her. And the other woman beside Meher's gaze radiated strength, not just for herself but for me, and for all those who had felt small. Just then, something profound happened. It wasn't just my realization, it was ours collectively. Despite the laughter, the belittling words, we knew the power we wielded, each one of us standing not alone but in solidarity, grounded in the love and support blooming among us. Our courage had transformed, an unstoppable force ignited in that moment. The warmth of hope wrapped around me like a shield. You may think fear is your weapon, I called out, confident and fierce, but kindness and resilience are a far stronger force. You've underestimated us. Jason froze at my words. I could see doubt etched across his face, his bravado slipping like sand through fingers. Without realizing it, I took a step forward again, the aperture between our worlds narrowing. We're not afraid of you. We won't back down anymore, and in that moment, something shifted. The tension coiled tighter and tighter, fraying at the edges. A chorus of voices rose from our assembled strength, weaving harmony throughout the evening. Together. We stand together. An unbreakable sound, urging Jason to understand that this was no longer his game. It was as if the very fabric of the night had stitched a shield around us. The clarity of purpose struck me, illuminating the path toward change. Today would be a date that saw the birth of hope, a date that unshackled us from fear, and as I locked eyes with Jason, I felt no anger, no fear, only a profound understanding that in each of us, the power to change the narrative lay waiting to unfurl. Then, unexpectedly, the crowd surged closer, warmth radiating as hands reached for the tapestry woven from threads of every struggle, every scar, and we stood together still, unified and unyielding. I grasped the hands of those nearby, feeling a palpable thrum of strength coursing through each connected heartbeat. Jason's expression twisted, uncertainty bleeding into rage. "Choose," he snarled, his voice a desperate plea, "choose to fight your fear or let it consume you." My heart raced, but I felt emboldened. In that breath, I understood had offered us a false dichotomy. We could redefine it. We could choose to stand in our light, and maybe for the first time, I would choose to dance not in the shadows, but in the clarity of my truth. We choose us, I declared, my voice steady and sure. We choose to be who we truly are, not just a punchline, but a symphony of strength and spirit, a dance of resilience that won't bow down to your tyranny. As Jason stepped back, a rift widened where hope lay, and I felt something shatter within me, remnants of his grasp clattering against the floor of our unity. There was no laughter that day, only the haunting echoes of what could have been had he chosen light instead of darkness. In a moment that felt suspended in time, I raised my arms above my head, connecting with the rhythms thumping through the heart of everyone around me. We began to move together, a kaleidoscope of love and hope radiating outwards, drowning out all the pasts we had shared, chasing away the laughter that used to tease and taunt, leaving only the music of our triumph. And as I danced, a newfound courage enveloped me, a beautifully woven memory generating sparks behind my closed eyes, a promise that could bloom in this life we were crafting anew. I knew it wouldn't all be easy, the darkness would still flicker in the corners, but we were no longer alone. At that moment, I understood against all odds, we were breaking through, and the final twist was that our might surged not just against one foe, but for the many souls waiting eagerly to find their voices in the melody of life. Tomorrow would still come, but with it, I now had my family. I had us, standing proud, unyielding. And as the night embraced us, I knew I would never carry the weight of a dishwasher's dreams alone. They were taking flight on wings of resilience, and so was I. Here, dancing under the lights, I found my heart's rhythm again, finally ready to step beyond the shadows, believing that I was capable of so much more than anyone ever let me dream. "You will remember this," I smiled to Jason, my voice boldly echoing in the night. Not as the girl who danced alone, but as the woman who created a movement. And with every beat of our united spirits, I whispered to the universe, for it knew just how deeply I had come alive.